That's just,
I haven't seen it. Seems inefficient. Okay.
good evening, and welcome to the business meeting of January the 28th, 2015 of Richmond Community Schools Board of School Trustees. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we're ready to have our statement of mission.
Richmond Community Schools guides students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
And thank you, Susie. And now our statement of vision.
Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you, Kelly. And now we are ready for our showcase video.
Yes, we have the REA Teacher of the Month, and we'll start the video, and then we'll introduce and bring up our special teacher and the Kelly after the video.
It was my pleasure to nominate Jeannie Engel for this month's REA Teacher of the Month, even though she's not a classroom teacher. Jeannie Engel has served for many, many years as a counselor at all levels, elementary, intermediate, and high school, and has been in a variety of different buildings within Richmond Community Schools and outside our district as well. Jeannie is exceptional at working with young people. But I could say also that Jeannie is our Teacher of the Month on her own merit, but also represents the many, many, many people behind the scenes that work to make the jobs of teachers more easily accomplished.
Absolutely fantastic. Terrific student body here, and a very diverse student body, ranging from our logo students to our early college students to all of our life skills, grade 5 through 8. So it's just a really nice mix of kids, and they are a joy to work with. We have 3 classrooms of them, and they are, again, a joy. Very excitable, eager to learn about how to be a good citizen here at the school and stop bullying and those kinds of issues that we all talk about here at the school. I came in as an elementary school counselor with some of the title schools, and I had 3 elementary title schools. I worked with Vale, Fairview, and Star. And when those counseling positions went away, then I went to Dennis. So I was at Dennis for 5 years, and then I went to Richmond High School. I was there for the last 7. So I've had the whole K through 12 experience in school counseling, which has been phenomenal. This morning we had a meeting at the high school, and we talked about courses that our 8th graders will be taking next year in 9th grade, and how that will then lead them to their career pathway by graduation. So I'm with my husband, who came here with the paper. Thought we'd be here 2 years. It's been 26. So we ended up staying here and having our children here, and our children all went through the Richmond school system, which is, they've done fabulously well through this system and beyond. And it just happened to be an opportunity that fell into place. I was definitely a family and child welfare worker prior to that. I do a lot, and that's the really neat thing about this job, is that there is so much diversity within the counseling, the school counselor role. This morning I did PBS meetings, and I had the high school meeting to talk about incoming 9th graders there and course selections and what's happening at that building. I meet several times a week with younger students, primarily over lunch, and talk about issues that they're facing. This little group I had earlier, it's a grief group and also a support group for some things that are happening in their lives. With my older students, tends to be a little more directed toward career, college readiness types of things. I'm doing graduation plans with all the 6th graders to help them focus on what they need to do to graduate. And I'll be doing 8th grade, basically course selection for high school coming up in the next few weeks.
Okay, this takes us down to the next part on the agenda, the actual recognition, where we're able to bring the teacher forward with and meet her again face to face.
It's my pleasure to introduce Jeannie Engel to the board. I had the pleasure of working with Jeannie for 5 years at Dennis and got to see her up close and personal, and she is amazing with the students. She has a great rapport with her students, and she is exceptionally talented in working with young people, so it was an easy nomination to make. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you. Do I speak?
Yes,
Thank you all
Absolutely.
for that, and thank Kelly for the nomination. It's been just really a great experience working for Richmond Community Schools, and really, Elisa hired me originally, and Elisa was my boss originally when we came in with the title programs, and it was great, and I've really been so fortunate to work with such great teachers and administrators, wonderful kids, and I've seen and heard just about anything you can think of, so. Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do. Some of us have had the chance to see you in action, and we
We work
know
together, yeah.
that we know what you can do, and we're very pleased that you made those years stretch out so that we could benefit from all of your talents.
Thank you.
And it sounds as though you wear many, many hats.
Oh, yes, many hats, no doubt about it, so, yeah.
So your
It's
job
never boring.
never
boring, no, it's always a joy to work with the kids. It's sometimes, there's situations where there's, it's not a good situation and you're kind of in a little bit of a bind about what to do, but you try to do the best you can at the time, so. But we've got some great students in our building who need counseling services, and we appreciate the fact that you all support us. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And you just, I know that you help children, you help families, you help teachers, and so you do wear many hats,
Yep.
and we just appreciate so much all of the work that you do.
Well, thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, the next item under our celebration and the joy of learning is something that we're extremely excited about. As we briefly mentioned at the last board meeting, we were so excited to receive our letter from SEL. For those that do not know the acronym, SEL is the Center of Excellence in Leadership and Learning, and they have endorsed our Richmond High School as an early college high school. And that's significant to us, and I think Mr. Millis is going to help us go through the rest of this, because I believe we have people here from the UND that are going to come forward. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay, come
Yes,
on, come forward. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce a couple of great individuals from SEL, and first there's Dr. Janet Boyle on this side, and Tianka Perkins, who Dr. Boyle is director of SEL, and Tianka is the interim director for the early college program, which is under that umbrella. And they have been in our schools several times, and they've watched our progress over the years. And we've made some great leaps and bounds the last couple of years. So I'll really just turn it over to them, and we're excited. The endorsement letter is posted online, and so for those interested to know exactly what we went through in order to get to this, I think it will outline some of that. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Millis and board members and administrators. This is truly a joy to be here tonight because we have worked with Richmond schools for a number of years. I believe it was 2 years ago, the high school went through our endorsement process, and at the time, we thought there were a few more things that needed to be worked on, so we sent a letter of here's the specifics, and gave a time frame for those things to be accomplished. Not only did the high school accomplish everything on our list, they went beyond that, and we are not used to seeing that. So it is truly a pleasure to designate Richmond High School as our 9th high-quality endorsed early college in the state. Tianka now wants to share some of the specific things that we feel makes Richmond High School stand out.
And I would like to share one thing with you. The Indiana Commission for Higher Education has designated SEL as the only organization in the state that can endorse official high-quality early college high schools. So this really is a distinguished honor, and we're so happy to be here to present it to you. There are really 3 big points that I'd like to make about why we were so overwhelmed with how well you all did in building this early college program. First of all, through early college, it's more than just a dual credit program. There are 8 different components of early college high school. And one of the big ones is that students have the opportunity to earn the statewide transfer general education core, which is a 30-hour collegiate certificate that transfers to any public institution in the state as a block of 30 hours. So that's 30 hours a student is already finished with. Or they can even earn an associate's degree, which is 60 hours of credit, all through Richmond High School Early College. So that's at a reduced rate of college tuition or even free for students who are eligible for free and reduced price meals. So that's a huge cost savings and time savings, especially for students who may not otherwise have the opportunity to go to college. Another great thing is they're so dedicated to the program at Richmond High School that they've even designated space for their early college program. And another thing that we found really unique about the program is that the program really started here in Richmond in middle school, and it was about preparing students early so that they could get through the dual credit coursework to earn those pathways and those certificates I talked about. That's huge. A lot of schools find that if they start the program in 9th grade, they have to think the next year about how to move down into high school to make sure students can even, they're even prepared for dual credit. Richmond had it right off the back and started at middle school in the beginning, and that was great. But the thing that I really was just blown away by is the amount of support that has been provided and dedicated, not just to students, but also to staff to make this program work. First of all, students, they have that preparation program in middle school that gets them ready for the early college program. There are also dedicated counselors, not just in the early college program at the high school, but also in the middle school to counsel students into the correct classes and pathways. And lastly, this was just amazing. There's a weekly report run on students in the early college program just to make sure that they're on track for success. And if they're not, students receive individual attention to make sure that they're doing all right in their classes and are on track to complete their coursework and their pathway. And also the support provided to faculty was just amazing. Early college teachers get extra planning time. There's also designated times and dates for early college team professional development. And one of the smartest things that was done is that there's an early college advisory committee, and there aren't just early college teachers on that committee. There are non-early college teachers just from all throughout the school so that they understand what the program is, what its goals are, and they can support the program from their vantage point. So I just applaud you so much for the work that you all have done. I was not on the visit for the initial endorsement visit, but I read the application and I read the newest one, and I'm just blown away by what you did in the year. So congratulations, and we'd like to present you with this banner for you to hang in the school to recognize your accomplishment.
Let's have the principal come up too.
Yes, we need that.
Also, what this means is we would like to showcase Richmond High School at our next Early College Network meeting, which will be in April, and then we also will start sending teams from other schools here. We often have other schools that want to start early college, and we like to show them great models.
Great.
So there's your banner for your high school,
Very nice.
and we should show the audience.
Right, and I would love for all of those of you that are involved in early college, please come up here and stand behind the banner for us, would you please? All of you, thank you. Because all of these people made this happen. Hold the banner, all right, we'll take a photo moment.
Hold it up.
Hold it up.
Hold it up.
Here we go.
A little higher on the banner.
Little higher on the banner, please.
Well, not
Oh,
too
not
high.
too high. We're missing, we're missing somebody's chin.
This truly was a team effort, and so it's not one individual, it's a lot of individuals that really made this happen. And thank you to Mr. Millis for being our guiding light through this also.
Mrs. Wolpe, I think it would be appropriate after the photo moment if everyone introduced themselves.
I think that would be great too.
Please.
All right, so let's just get up there and introduce yourselves and just say where you are in the early college program, all right?
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dan Capps. I'm from Test Intermediate School. I'm 8th grade history teacher for the early college program.
Thank you.
Jeannie Angle, Hibbert School Counselor.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Mel Black, Dennis Middle School Counselor.
Thank you, Mel.
Ginger Middleton, 6th grade, humanities, 5th grade, social studies, and media specialist for Hibbert Early College.
Thank you, Ginger.
Brad Pitcher, 5th grade sponsor teacher at Hibbert.
Thank you, Brad.
Tiana Washington, I am the 6th through 8th grade science teacher and 6th grade math at Hibbert.
Thank you, Tiana.
I'm Trey Ronnie. I'm the lead teacher. I teach social studies at the high school.
Thank you, Trey.
Jackie Schlichty, early college coordinator, and I'm in and out of all the buildings, being blessed by all of these people and the children.
Thank you, Jackie.
I think I know most of you. Carrie Ann Polk-Meek, and I've been fortunate to work with Early College this year and help with the dual credit pathway, 60 hours, actually 61 to be technical, because we had to throw in an extra so we were better than just the 60. Just to put that out there.
Thank you, Carrie Ann.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Keep up the good work.
And the celebration continues with our Purdue Leadership Institute students, and Ms. Wolpe is here with those wonderful students, and we're ready to recognize you and hear from you.
Thank you so much. We love to celebrate great things that are happening. Tonight, I want to introduce to you Christy Tollett. She is from Purdue University here in Richmond, and she is going to recognize Richmond High School students that participated in a summer leadership program. Christy, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here this evening. As she said, I'm Christy Tollett, and in my role at Purdue, I am a student services coordinator, so I do a lot of interesting things with students. And one of the things that we do not only is outreach, but something for the community so students can take back, even if they don't decide to come to Purdue. We're all about recruiting and the numbers, you guys know that. But even if they don't want to come to Purdue, we like to provide something that they can take back with them to their communities, to their schools, to their churches, whatever they're participating in. And use the leadership skills that they're developing. So this is the second summer that we had the Purdue Summer Leadership Institute, and we had about 13 different high schools represented from our region. Actually 5 students from Richmond. One moved away this fall, so Annie Slappy was also part of our Leadership Institute, so I'd like to recognize her even though she's not here. But I'm going to let the students tell a little bit about what they learned at the Purdue Leadership Institutes. And then they'll officially have completed it, and I'll give you your certificate. You want to go first, Kenzie?
Very good, kids. All right.
Hi, my name's Kinley Martin, and I'm from Richmond High School, and I partook in the Summer Leadership Institute of Purdue, and I learned a lot at this camp. I met a bunch of people that I will never forget, and the guest speakers were unforgettable, one sitting with us today. And I learned that leadership is important no matter where you go in life, if it were to be within your families or with the church group that you're with. And I didn't take much more out of that because that just stuck with me. I know that leadership and all the things that I'm involved in is very important, and I also learned that not being a leader is not just telling people what to do, but to communicate and work as a team together as you guys do here. And I'm glad to see it in the works, and I really appreciate all the people who put it together for me to be in this and for the people who nominated me, because I feel very honored to have been able to do this experience.
Wow, thank you, and congratulations.
All right, so just start off, I didn't really get the memo about wearing the shirts.
Might be gender reasons.
And I shouldn't really let Kinsey go first. She kind of blew it away there. But so I'm just going to read off my notes that I took. On day one, we talked a lot about ourselves and getting to know the other people. We also learned about the 4 choices of leadership, which is on this diagram right here. I don't know if you wanted to pass that around or not. And there was a quote by Gary Winters. It says, "Take the blame, give away the credit." On day 2, we learned about communication, creativity, and change, and we asked ourselves questions like what was planned, what really happened, why did it happen, and what can we do better next time. 3 things that I learned from the Purdue Summer Leadership Institute were creativity, communication, and collaboration. On day 3, we learned about ethics. We asked more questions. We talked about meetings. A meeting is the most important tool that we have, and the share of values. We asked ourselves more questions, asking ourselves, where am I going to be in 3 to 5 years? What would I sacrifice myself now for who I could be? And making sacrifice turns to great leadership and success. And there was also another quote that says, if you're going to change something, be prepared to have enemies. That was said by the 28th president. And that's kind of all I've got for you guys.
Thank you.
You never stated your name.
I'm Chandler Hillard.
Okay.
I don't want to embarrass anyone, but I won't mention the person's name, but the one who didn't get the memo, I happen to have that student as a former student in elementary school. And I'm very, very proud of that student.
Hi, I'm Grace Townsend, and I was very honored to be a part of this camp because all of the students were chosen for one reason or another, whatever leadership position they were put in. And I got to take away what I can do to better myself as to be a better leader than I already was. And one thing that I thought was really cool and a cool experience is we had an etiquette dinner, and we just learned how to be polite and how an etiquette dinner would go. And Chrissy actually taught us, and it was just a cool experience because I'm sure most people have never gone to one or learned what fork to use, and it was just cool. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
I'm Haley Blevins, and I attend Richmond High School, and over the Purdue Leadership Program, I learned a lot about work ethics and team building and communication, and I really enjoyed the guest speakers. They taught me a lot, and I would recommend this to a lot of people. It was a great experience.
Thank you.
plans are to hold 2 more this summer, so we will be sending nomination forms out to the schools closer to the end of the year. So if you come across nomination forms in your role, we'll definitely nominate any students that you think would benefit from this program and allow them the opportunity to bring back what they learned to their schools and continue using it in their leadership roles. So, okay. Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
thank you so much, Christy. And Christy, before you leave, I need to ask you a kind of a personal question.
Okay.
Have you decided who you're rooting for tonight?
I have.
Okay.
I have. You know, it's funny. When I was growing up as a kid, I was always an IU fan. My dad was an IU fan. We loved Bobby Nye. We loved Steve Alford. And when I told my parents I was going to go to Purdue in my undergrad, I think they were heartbroken.
So who is it that you're rooting for tonight?
Purdue.
Oh, okay.
It is Purdue. It is Purdue now. So, yeah. But it'll be a fun game. You know, we're on the same campus as IU East, so I love my IU East friends, and you know.
So you really won't go wrong, no matter who wins.
That's true.
You'll probably
That's
be
true.
in
It's a win-win, right?
I disagree with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know. Indiana let Ohio State beat us.
Okay, we are at the point on the agenda for our first public commentary. And I need to ask, is there anyone signed up wishing to speak tonight?
We have Kelly McDermott. Well, it's unfortunate Christy's gone, because as Kelly McDermott, private citizen, I have a problem following a Purdue person on the night of the big game. But as Kelly McDermott, REA president and teacher, I was hoping to have an opportunity to commend her for the fantastic work that she does. Oh, that hurts. Actually, the only reason I wanted to speak tonight was I just wanted to extend my personal thanks to Dr. Poindexter. On Saturday, she took 4 hours out of her personal time to meet with the teachers of Richmond schools down at the bagel shop, and just to have, informal, open conversation. And I know that there was a great turnout, and I've heard a lot of really positive comments from teachers. And so on behalf of REA, Dr. Poindexter, thank you very much for that effort to have open communication with the
It was
teachers.
a joy for me. I had a great morning.
Yeah, it was very nice, and you can't beat the bagels, so thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Now we're ready for our financial report and financial action items.
We start with our monthly and year-end financial report, and that would be Karen.
Okay, tonight we are going to do the financial piece a little bit differently, as we have a pretty large agenda and we do not yet have the budget orders for this year. We are going to bring to you the year-end wrap-up and the new budget all at the same time, as I hope to expect them by the next board meeting. We're looking for sometime, definitely in February, but our hope is that we'll have everything for that first meeting. So with that being said, the year-end financials are in the packet. They are posted to the web, so they can be seen there. The cash flow analysis, the income and expense analysis, as well as the P&L. And those are there for your review. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to give me a call anytime, and we can discuss those. But we will have further a review of them at a later date. So I'm going to keep moving on, as we have a lot of financial business to move through tonight. And the next point on the agenda is a resolution for a temporary transfer to a depleted fund, and this is something we do every year. It is very routine for us. Our cash balance in the general fund at the end of the year was $701,252.74. And there is a need for a temporary transfer from the rainy day to the general fund in the amount of $900,000 this year to maintain a positive cash position throughout the year. The temporary loan will be repaid on or before December 31st of 2015, and I recommend that the school board approve the request for the temporary transfer to this depleted fund.
Okay, motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Kelly Baumgardner. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, moving on. We also have a resolution for a temporary transfer to a depleted fund for the pension bond fund. And our current cash balance at the end of 2014 is $495,790.03. Our January pension bond payment is and was $862,974. Therefore, we need to do a temporary transfer from the rainy day fund to the pension bond fund in the amount of $425,000. This will maintain a positive position in the cash balance for us throughout the year, and this temporary loan will be repaid on or before December 31st, 2015. It's my recommendation that the board approve this transfer to a depleted fund on a temporary basis.
Okay, motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, and our next temporary transfer to a depleted fund is for the Transportation Operating Fund. Our cash balance at the end of 2014 and to start 2015 was $1,008,156.85. There is a need for a temporary transfer from the rainy day fund to the Transportation Operating Fund in the amount of $400,000 to maintain a positive cash balance. The temporary loan will again be repaid on or before December 31st, 2015. I ask that the school board approve the request for a temporary transfer to the depleted fund.
Okay, need a motion? Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, this is also another agenda item that is an annual agenda item, and that is a budget appropriation transfer. And this year we have transfers for 2014 in the General Fund, Capital Projects Fund, and Transportation Operating Fund. Each year we go through the process of closing our books, and the taxing funds where line items have been expended in amounts greater than what was appropriated originally have to be expended and transferred to from the approved budgets. We are required to have board action on transfers of appropriation from one major functional category to another, as expressed on the adopted budget forms. These transfers are attached for each fund, and the resolution presented accomplishes the budget appropriation transfer process and balances all line item expenditures. This motion shifts available appropriations from where there was not a need to where there was a need within the General Fund, Capital Projects Fund, and Transportation Operating Fund, noting that no expenditures were made that were in excess of the total available appropriation for each fund. It is my recommendation that the school board approve the resolution for the 2014 budget appropriation transfers in the General Fund, Capital Projects Fund, and the Transportation Operating Fund as presented.
Okay, I need a motion, please. Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Jeff Slifer. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we are ready to go to the Board of Finance organization.
I think, is this the point where we have to convene and reconvene, I believe? Excuse me.
So I will entertain a motion to close the Board of School Trustees meeting, and we will convene the Board of Finance. A motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So, first we need to elect the school board president and secretary as the president and secretary of the Board of Finance. We need a motion. Jeff Slifer makes the motion, seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, Karen Scalf will present the investment summary report and the investment income policy.
Okay, the first thing, present and presented on the web, and also, the board has, a printout of the policy that RCS holds on investment income. And that is pursuant to IC Code 5139 and IC Code 2026-5-4. The Board of School Trustees does authorize the superintendent to make investments of available monies from several funds in the corporation in bonds, bills, or notes of the United States, obligations, the principal and interest of which are fully guaranteed by the United States, or obligations of the state. We also allow for certificates of deposit, which the principal and interest are fully guaranteed by PDIF or Public Deposit Insurance Fund, and that's pursuant to IC Code 5-13-9-8.5. And also, if there are any other financial instruments authorized by the Indiana laws. Interest is derived from an investment and shall be deposited except as otherwise required by law in our corporation general fund. In review of the 2014 interest that we've received, you will notice this is also posted that all monies were kept in interest-bearing accounts with interest receipted into the general fund that were available to be handled in that capacity. Monies not needed for cash flow purposes may be invested, and we utilize the certificate of deposit or CD investments, and they are at a bid rate. We also give those to the highest bidder when those dollars are available. What you will notice is that we do not, in 2014, have any CDs that were available. Cash was needed for transacting business, so there were no CDs for 2014. The interest we received was received from interest-bearing accounts that we have, and those are at U.S. Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, and West End. The U.S. Bank account yielded $1,778.59 in interest. J.P. Morgan Chase, $1,354.88 in interest, and West End, we yielded $10,678.79 in interest, totaling $13,812.26 for the 2014 year. So if there are no further questions, I'll ask the board president to proceed.
Okay, I need a motion, please, to accept the report as reported. Motion made by Kelly Baumgardner, seconded by Dixie Robinson. All in favor, well, comments or questions? All,
Well, it used to be so much more.
Yes, it did.
yes.
Yes, it
you're
did.
right. Any others? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And now we need a motion to close the Board of Finance meeting and reconvene as the Board of School Trustees.
So moved.
Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We made it. Okay, we are ready to,
Move
well,
to the
I guess.
ready to move to the consent agenda. And we do have, under Human Resources, an addendum that's been posted.
Okay, I need a motion, please, to accept the consent items.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
A motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're ready for action items.
And we're moving to the first action item here, and that's donations. And that's Karen again.
Okay, the donations will be posted to the screen, and tonight we have total donations in the amount of $8,520.13. This month, we have two very special areas of donation, and those are in memory of Jack Perrine and the Charles Michael Morgeson Scholarship Fund. Each donation that we receive is most appreciated. The individual donations are all posted to the web, and we thank all of those who have so generously contributed this month to Richmond Community Schools. I will gladly read each donation individually if the board would like, but I also ask now that you accept these donations in the total amount of $8,520.13.
I need a motion. Motion made by Dixie Robinson,
Second.
seconded by Aaron Stevens. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry. Motion carried. I'm sorry.
Do not apologize.
I just,
understand.
I want to thank the public for all the donations, but on a personal note, from my family and me, thank you to all those who donated in memory of Mike and for the scholarship fund set up at the high school. And this year, a scholarship will be awarded to a senior who pursues education, or to a softball player who is pursuing further education. So, thank you.
Now we need acceptance of the MAC grant.
Tonight, I also bring to you a MAC grant. This, once again, is a McDonald's grant that's given to individual teachers for supplies in their classroom. And tonight, we have one for Ms. Jennifer Bryson, who is at Vale Elementary, and she'll be using her grant for science materials. So tonight, I ask that the board accept the grant in the amount of $495.86.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions?
I just think these are great. I
Oh.
know it takes time for the teachers to do it, but I also know I've seen several of them receive, and they're so excited. And I heard a conversation at the gym the other day. It's like, did you apply for your MAC grant? Or did you get your MAC grant? So I just think it's fantastic.
Well, we wish them well, and it's going to be used to, for students, and that's pretty awesome. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, next we have the continued waiver of policy number 7434. Last time we reviewed and discussed and provided information to the board on the policy that we had to permit smoking in a designated area at for the Excel students and at the C.R. Richardson site. We've continued to receive positive feedback about the behavior and the surroundings of that particular building. So we would like this time to ask the board to consider to continue that policy.
Okay, a motion to continue that policy, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Aaron Stevens, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? Susie?
I must admit to being concerned about this opportunity, I guess, is what it is, on two levels. One is I don't like to do things that support smoking because it's dangerous to people's health. But I was also concerned that the placement of the area where the students would be doing the smoking would be somewhat public, and I was concerned about it. And it just so happens I live just east of the building, and so I started driving past it whenever I went west, and just to see what was going on. And I have to say, when I've seen a few people at a time out there smoking, but what I've also seen is people picking up and cleaning up, and I was pleased about that they were taking some responsibility for the area and policing it.
That's what we had been
Thank you.
advised, and we appreciate that.
Aaron?
I wanted to share the same thing, and I'm in that building a couple times a week. The students who are using the opportunity, I appreciate the fact that we have also, it has eliminated that blight on 13th Street and South J Street, because previously they'd been congregating, in the curb area and everything else, and it was, we're not getting the negative responses from people in the community or people in those particular neighborhoods anymore, because they are utilizing that smoking area, so.
Great.
And I think it's important, when you use the term students, they are students, but they're also adults. They're 18 years of age and older, so,
Yes.
They could, any adult that's wanting to come back to finish his high school education is going there. So we're not, when we say students, we're not talking about the typical student under 18 years of age, so.
And certainly the staff there is trying and having discussions with the adults, the students, about obviously opportunities to quit smoking, stop smoking, and things that would be helpful, and we'd certainly continue to do that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. To the next item on the agenda, this is not a light one. I just would like to say, as I make the recommendation here, that this particular item on the agenda, the curriculum delivery structure, is something that did receive some conversation at times, probably over the last 2 years. But upon my arrival, we were really starting to discuss and hear about the state-required test and budget issues with the delivery structure of the trimester. And we had a number of people in the office that just almost worked day and night trying to pull together the best research out there. And I would have to say at this time, as hard as we worked, there's really no definitive research, because there's so many variables that impact student learning. But in some instances, we would see some data that at least said that in foreign language and mathematics overall, the semester was probably advantageous. Other than that, it just seemed to be more of a preference as to what you really wanted to do in a school system as far as getting results. We had to look at carefully, and I don't think that we could ignore this at all, is matching the state test with the student course completion. It was going to be extremely difficult for us to start with grade 10 students, then back to 9, 11, and possibly 12 on a tri-semester schedule. It just was extremely difficult. So after all of the discussion, we're at the point now, and I know this has been extremely difficult for the board, because you're having to read through this, think all this, through all this, and extremely difficult for our teachers too. But we did realize, after Kelly was so helpful in helping us get some data, that I think the teachers overall at the high school would prefer to have the semester schedule as opposed to larger class sizes. So taking all of those variables into consideration, we're at the point now that we're moving forward the recommendation to change the present curriculum delivery structure in the Richmond schools from the trimester to the semester delivery structure, beginning with the 2015-16 school year, with the exception of test intermediate school that may remain on the trimester schedule until future review by the school board.
Okay, I need a motion, please, to accept the recommendation.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by
Second.
Aaron Stevens. Now, comments and questions. Kelly?
I have a concern that I'd like to bring forward so
Sure.
that the public hears about, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but about Dennis and Tess being on different schedules because we have so many students that move back and forth. Could you speak to that?
We did look at the transition between the schools, and we have about 100 students a year. We went back and actually spent a full day, pulling data on those students that move back and forth, and we sent a summary. I don't have it in front of me. And it's, again, it's one of those things, it's so difficult, Kelly, to really decide. It showed perhaps that the scores were a bit greater for students that move from Tess to Dennis, But again, it's just one measurement, and it's one group of students. So to generalize from that and say that there was a big difference, I think would probably not, I know the statisticians would tell us we couldn't do that. So.
And how are we going to monitor this? Are we going to check it yearly to see how we're doing with the different schedules, or?
Well, I think that I definitely think we'd have to be monitoring it. And again, as we have more time and look and give the opportunity for tests and the staff there to think about, what would be best and how to look at that schedule, they may feel comfortable, moving on to the semester schedule. It does create some scheduling issues, but it's nothing. We've looked at those scheduling issues and we've said we can accommodate them.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
It will accommodate them. It will have some impact at Hibbard. We know that, but when we've talked about that, because we would have, I believe the early college at Hibbard would be on a semester, so to speak, and the Logos would be on the trimester. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
But we've looked at the scheduling, giving grades, and we've said we'll make that work.
Susie?
What about vacations? Will they, because I would assume the school vacations
Nothing.
might fall differently.
No problem. We'll have the
So
same
we'll
calendar.
all be on the same calendar.
Same calendar.
Okay.
Exactly. Nothing like that will change. It really involves the scheduling of classes pretty much at test.
And transfer students.
It is
Jeff.
some extra work.
I think it's also important, one of the reasons why I'd like to support this, whether I personally feel semesters are better or not, to me, there's really a little bit more to this, because the conversation solely took place in the beginning at the high school. And I think that it was interesting to find out that Dennis has been, for the last couple of years, basically on a semester schedule in a trimester setting.
Right.
Because they felt it was better for them,
Right.
or they had different goals. Test hasn't been. So I think in fairness, I think part of what we have to consider here, Test had a week and a half to react to this huge change. And so I think in fairness to Test, they should have an opportunity to discuss it at the building level if this meets their need or not. I'm sure there's going to be conversation. So I applaud the administration to recognizing a decision that isn't going to be forced right down somebody's throat, basically, after a week and a half or 2 weeks of conversation. I think the other thing that I want to remind everybody is Test also was already on a trimester schedule. Now, correct me, but I think it was 2 years before the high school switched to the semester, because my son was a senior when we went to trimesters. My daughter was in intermediate school. So that different schedule worked at that time. So this gives the opportunity for everybody in the corporation, everybody in the public, students, parents, to figure out where do they want to go, if they want to stay the same, and it gives us time to discuss it. So.
Well, I think that the timeline was short, and I think that due to the circumstances, everybody pitched in to gather the input and whatever data that was needed, and I know it took time, but I think it was time well spent. And so I just want to commend everyone. I know that Kelly, on behalf of REA, rallied her group together to gather this input, and they were busy doing surveys and talking together and talking with the administration. It came to discussion. There was robust discussion that evening on Wednesday. And so I think that it shows that working together, we can problem solve and we can come up with hopefully solutions that that work for our kids and our staff. And so I thank Dr. Poindexter, because I know that she certainly kind of walked into this effort, and but she took it and she ran with it and was a great help in facilitating the decision that she ended up recommending. So, anyway, kudos. Suzanne?
I am happy that you're going to be looking at, though, the ramifications of two different intermediate school schedules. Because I've been concerned about, because they currently have two different types of schedules now. And I've been concerned about that a little bit because of just exactly what we said. We do have movement between the two.
Right, we do.
One of the reasons why we felt very strongly about doing 5, 6, 7, and 8 in intermediate was to minimize the effect of that transiency. So I am very concerned about that. However, I am pleased that you were able to come to some conclusion in the time frame allowed, because I do think it was super critical for us to make a decision for the credit earning folks. I know that was very important, so I do appreciate that. But.
Dixie?
I just wanted to ask, because I know that some parents may not be aware of this yet. And are we going to make some kind of effort to inform them of the reasons why? I don't know if you would send it out in a newsletter or what have you, but I definitely think that they should have the reasoning behind the switch at this time.
We would be able to put something together with the help of the building principals, so that there could be something uniform go out to all of the buildings, so that I think that would probably be the best communication to the parents, would be to come perhaps from the building principals. Would that work?
Yeah, I think that would be good. But I think they need to know the reasons with the testing and the dual
Connecting it to
credits
scheduling would be
and
good,
connect-
too.
yes.
Right, yes.
Well, and at the high school, am I correct in that it might impact all of the students except the seniors, obviously? I mean,
Yeah.
is there going to be an impact in scheduling for those students remaining?
And I'm sorry, what?
Will
there be an impact?
Will there be an impact on the schedules for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors?
We are just starting the scheduling process with this vote in mind. So we moved very cautiously and did what we needed to do. Now, with your vote, we can then proceed with the students selecting courses. And that's all they're doing right now, is making course selections.
But will that be necessary, will it be necessary for you to have some contact with parents so that they understand?
Right. And one of the things.
You want to come on down.
Come on down is good.
One of the nice things is we're having an 8th grade orientation tomorrow night. So the 8th grade parents that attend that orientation tomorrow night, we will be able to inform them. And then we'll use our media sources, our radio, TV, our register, and opportunities as we get together, department chairs and leadership team. How do we let our students know, and how do we prepare our students for what's coming?
Right.
Right.
Well, I just wanted to ask because, we have talked so much about getting our parents involved in the scheduling and, having knowledge of what their children's schedules are going to look like and so on and so forth. And so it seems as though at the high school it's going to have probably a greater impact.
You are correct.
Than
Yes,
any
Linda,
place
you're
else.
very correct. And again, we will get together and we will make that happen. We will help educate our parents as well as our students.
So Tess will basically stay the same. And Dennis, Kelly, will there be any difference? There won't be any difference in your schedule?
There may
So-
be, exploratory offerings may be impacted in terms of where they're, where they're placed and whether there's a rotation, but beyond that, I don't think so.
Okay.
What Kelly and I were just talking about, if we would love, we want to stay on the 6 weeks progress report grading period. So that'll actually mirror, I mean, Test will be sending out progress reports the same time we're sending out progress reports, and Dennis, as long as we are all on the 6 weeks, which we like because it is a good check as to where our students are in their coursework at that time. If we went to the 9 weeks, a lot of times a student is so far behind by 9 weeks. So as long as we stay on 6 weeks, I think it'll work well.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. And now we are ready for reports.
Did we do 8.03?
We didn't
We
do,
left off an agenda item,
8.03.
What is it?
the uniform conflict of interest statements. Is
We just missed it.
8.03?
Oh,
We just
what did
missed
I
it.
we missed it.
They moved it to consent, I believe.
They moved it,
Oh,
that's right.
okay.
I'm sorry, that's right. Yeah, that was in the wrong place, and we moved it back, and it got changed at the last. Yes, 8.03.
Okay.
We have uniform conflict of interest statements for a couple more, a board member and an administrator that we left off last time.
There they
It's
are.
recommended that you approve them as presented.
Okay, I need a
I'll make the
motion.
motion.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for catching that. I was looking at the paper copy here.
Now, we're going to move on to reports, discussion topics.
Yes. Yes, and this is the time where we will have the opportunity to discuss the Richmond Community Schools needs, what we beliefs and our wants, our desires to support our students.
Transportation is an ongoing discussion, and we know that our finances, again, are somewhat dictating some of the things that we do. And transportation is one of those things. So tonight, we're going to have a discussion that it's not problem solving. We are not problem solving. We are not getting into the details. We're not planning to talk about the finances. We feel that we need some general direction from the board as the finance committee works on the transportation finances. And so that's the reason that we want to have this general discussion tonight with board members and administration as to what it is that we desire and that we want concerning transportation. So I'm going to throw a couple questions out for us to respond to, and then we'll just kind of play it by ear as to where our discussion goes and as to what our next steps are. So the first question that I want to throw out is, to all of you, is what are the barriers for our parents as far as transportation of their children to and from school? Given our demographics, we need to think about what effect our transportation system has on them and on our students. So, Kelly.
Well, I first have a question.
Okay.
why are we having this discussion now? Are we trying to, I mean, what is it we're trying to do? Are we, is this because a contract is due? Is this,
Well, I think that the background information that we all are familiar with is, yes, the contract, we know that we cannot stay with the contract the way it is written because we cannot financially afford it.
so we're trying to find out where our priorities are as far as transportation?
Yes, we are. And in order to do that, we have not really had a conversation that has given indication as far as how the board is, what their position is. And so, as we move through this process, we need to have this conversation, because if it impacts policy, as it impacts financial responsibilities, we need to know where the board stands so that we can do what we need to do to move in that direction. And it's also, I believe that we had had a conversation and that the board had suggested that this particular topic be referred to the Finance Committee. And so in order for the Finance Committee to do the work that they need to do, they need to know where the board stands.
So do we know how much each route would cost, like what we need to cut, or?
That's down the line. That we don't, we need this information first before we delve into the rest of
I know that we've worked really hard over the past few years to be able to accommodate students if they would say, move in the middle of the school year, to be able to stay in their school. We transport some of them, don't we, out of their school area?
Neighborhood area.
To other schools? I mean, some of that.
So those are the things that we need to know. If, are those kinds of things important to this board to continue doing? And so if they are important, then we need to find a way to be able to do that. So we're going to have to prioritize.
Right. That's my point.
As to what our services might be, perhaps. So, I mean, we don't know that because we don't know what the cost might be yet. But that's something, that's why we thought if we could have this discussion, and it may seem as though it's a little backward because we have been given some information, the financial information and so forth, but that's kind of backward too, because we need to lay out our guidelines first. Susie?
I think that the overriding concern for transportation or for students who walk is their safety and making sure that they are in a situation where they will be able to be successful in being safe. And when I think about it, I think about we have some major U.S. highways that intersect, that cross our community, 4 lanes wide, 3 lanes wide, and those. Traditionally, I believe we've tried to help kids not have to cross those highways. And the other kinds of things that I think about are that, unfortunately, in this day and age, we know that there are sexual offenders, and we can all pull up the map that shows where they live. And one of the things that is concerning is coming up with a plan for kids who might walk to school so that they would be they'd have a route that's safe and not going to place them in any kind of jeopardy as it relates to those individuals. Another thing that I know is out there, and I think would be worth exploring, is that the federal government has a program out there to help school systems come up with safe ways to walk to school, and helps look at the routes that kids walk to school, even the culture of walking to school, so that families who are living in an area where kids walk to school are encouraged to participate and look out for the kids that walk to school. I kind of think it's even called a walking bus. I'm not sure. But, there are some resources available to support walking and even biking to school, and helping kids learn the safe ways to do that. Certainly, there are students who live far enough away from schools that walking is not a viable option. And I think that's a concern for parents, because a lot of parents have work schedules and transportation conflicts that mean that if that transportation were to fall on their shoulders, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we provide transportation, so that is not a conflict for families. So I feel like we need to, through an examination of these issues, we need to create criteria, and maybe that's what you're looking for.
It is, exactly.
That would help us to define, maybe re-look at our policy, so that we have a structure in place that supports those concerns for safety. I have a little trouble. I didn't walk 6 miles through snow and sleet and
Like Abraham Lincoln.
Like Abraham, and it wasn't always uphill. But I did walk to school when I was in fact, when I went to school, we walked home for lunch. And came back to school in the afternoon. So it was a different day and age. But I do think that walking can be a real positive thing. I mean, it's exercise too.
So do you think that the safety issue is what has changed that? What has changed that from when you walked to school to now? Is it basically the safety issue, you think?
I think it's safety, and I think it's also it's a combination of safety and convenience. When a student lives, I mean, I never had to walk a mile to school, but we have kids who, if they had to walk to school, would be walking more than a mile to get there. And so I think there has to be some kind of structure that says, well, what is the longest walk we want our kids to make, and how can we assure that they are making that walk in safety? And the other issue, having been involved with in buildings where there was a lot of busing, is the other issue, I think, is where do we pick our kids up? How do we maintain the safety of that spot? I know that it's different if you have to wait with, say, 8 or 10 or 12 other kids to get on that bus, and it's not supervised by an adult while they're waiting. Sometimes things don't always go as smoothly as we would like and hope. But on the other hand, I just think there's several issues out there that need to be addressed.
Okay, are there?
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to add on yours about the walking. I think that we also need to take a look at the walking in relation to the weather. If it's snowy and icy on the sidewalks, the kids have to walk in the street. If it's rainy, to me, that's the barrier, because if the weather is, if there's a torrential rain outside and it's just coming down in buckets, what's our attendance rate gonna be in the schools? You know, that's the first question I'm gonna ask. Because you know what, if my parent has to leave for work at 6:30 and I'm there by myself, and I'm gonna get soaked, I'm gonna be tardy, or I'm not gonna go to school. So, so we have to look at it. Walking sounds nice, you know, 1/10 of a mile, 1 block, but that changes based on the temperature, the weather, and right now, it's dark until, what, 7:30, 8 o'clock?
Almost 8.
So our kids will be walking in the dark in the morning, so, there's a lot of things that, that's why I'm glad that we're having a conversation, because I think this criteria that we want to set as a board will drive how we want to go to get our cost for our transportation
We
department.
could have our school district be in the central time zone, that would help.
Well, and there's some valid points that start school at 10 o'clock. Who knows? Don't
No,
print
we're
that.
not. We're not problem solving.
But I think that goes to the barrier.
Suzanne?
I just wanted to help a little since I work with this every day. Currently, the criteria used for walk to stop or walk to school is 0.2 miles for elementary students and 0.4 for secondary students. So that's about the equivalent of 2 or 4 blocks. And that's, walk to stop or walk to school.
I mean, a bus stop?
Correct. So if they're within 0.2 miles of a bus stop, even though they might be 4 miles from school, there's allowable, that's what we use as our criteria. We also are very deliberate about the busy streets. Those are avoided.
Thank you.
Are all the bus stops sheltered?
No.
So see that. What good is it gonna do to walk to a bus stop and then stand out in the rain for 15 minutes waiting on the bus to get there?
Bus stops are
That's a consideration.
shifted based on where the students are too. So there's a current set of stops, of course, but next year if the students shift and everyone's walking 0.4, we would move that, obviously. So.
Aaron?
And I'm in agreement with the safety concerns due to weather, due to the darkness. I have 2 bus stops or pickup locations within 2 blocks of my house. And usually in the morning when I'm leaving to go to work, about 10 minutes till 7, I'm seeing kids already walking that area. The streets, you've touched on that. Weather conditions, if we've got snowy sidewalks, then kids are going to be standing either in the snow or walking to the bus stop area in the streets. That's my concern, one of them. Other concern, excuse me, is if you live in the west side of Richmond, you're also contending, somebody had mentioned sexual predators earlier, but I'm not going to go that far. I'm talking about the homeless individuals who are staying at men's shelter, that's located on the state hospital campus. And usually about that time in the morning when our students are going to those bus stops, you may get 30, 40 of them a day who are leaving there or walking through there. And this is something that I see, whether it be in the Westview area, because they may head south from that hospital area, or they walk east into the Fairview area, or you can see them coming down West Main Street. And I don't mean to be demeaning by using the pronouns of them, but we have gentlemen and sometimes ladies also who at that time in the morning are being put out of their shelters for the day until it's time to come back, and they're walking past kids who are 6, 7, 8 years old who are waiting at the bus stop. My other barrier of concern is dealing with the poverty issues that a lot of the families are dealing with. If it's a single-parented household and there may not be a vehicle there, I've seen it where children don't have the proper clothing to stand out there, whether it be in the rain or cold weather, or especially this time of the year with the snow and I've had people sit in my patrol car for a while, you know, to get warm. But we have a lot of parents who may not be able to contend and deal with the weather, the inclement weather issues. And then we go back to that, if I don't have this and my child doesn't have this, my son or daughter is going to be late for school or may not be able to go whatsoever, because as the parent, I'm thinking safety first, and we may not have the means to have them standing out for that period of time. Those are a few of my
Thank you.
area concerns.
Dixie?
Well, I did walk over a mile to school the whole time I was in Richmond Community Schools.
Well, that's because you walked with Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, I did.
The cat's out of the bag.
So did I.
And
so,
we went home
you know.
for lunch every day, like Susie said. So it was like a little over 4 miles a day. But at that time, there wasn't nearly as much traffic.
That's a good point.
That is good.
There's a lot more traffic now. And also, we have kids who come to school now, I think, with a lot more compromised health issues than we used to have. However, I do think that 0.4 miles for secondary students could be extended a little. And to me, that's a fairly short
Essentially 4 blocks.
distance. Yes.
Okay.
Anything
else?
The federal program that I was referring to, that I've heard a little bit about, one of the things that I believe is a part of that is you come up with your transportation plan. But I believe there's also additional funding available to make sure that the paths that the sidewalks are actually safe. And I don't know if perhaps some of that funding might be able to be used to create shelters, which might be a good thing, given our situation.
Do you know, is this a grant that has to be pursued, or?
Yes, it is a
Okay,
grant
it
that
is
you
a grant.
write, and I believe my understanding is you can do it as a district, but more often it's done as an individual school. And I just happen to know a little bit about it because I have a daughter who's a traffic engineer, and she oversees some of these from the traffic engineering point of view.
Okay. Aaron?
You know, this is really thinking way out of the box, and
Well, that's what we have to
if you
do.
wanna laugh at me, go ahead. City of Richmond recently, Tony Foster was here earlier, we recipients of a grant, you know, when it comes to blight. But, and I know that the City of Richmond has a lot of financial concerns at this point, but thinking outside the box, it would be great if we could identify some of those vacant buildings in some of those areas where students are picked up that maybe are set for demolishment or being raised, that might be salvageable. You know, if there's an opportunity for additional grant money and partnerships between the City of Richmond and Richmond Community Schools and other entities, so we could maybe identify some of those, so it could be a safe shelter for students gathering in the morning while waiting on buses.
Absolutely. Okay, now we're going to kind of switch the conversation a little bit, and we're going to focus on the barriers that, for Richmond Community Schools. What are our barriers that we are faced with concerning transportation?
Are you talking with that, are you referring to inter-school transfers, parents from other districts?
Anything that might be a barrier for,
We have a financial limit. We'd only get so much money, and we have to figure out how to live within our means.
exactly, that's a barrier.
And we instituted class caps a few years ago, which creates transportation issues.
That's probably one of our biggest barriers right there.
I would say time. One of the other guidelines we utilize is that we want the students, and this is a good guideline, on the bus an hour or less. However, we have our days structured where the older students, the most routes go last instead of first. And the most assets are used in that second tier. We have 2 tiers. And so once the students are dropped at the elementary schools, there is less than 40 minutes to do the secondary routes. And that's where the most assets are used by the time you drop students off and then get on the secondary route. So we've handcuffed ourselves a little bit with time, I believe.
Well, and I think another barrier is that there is research that shows that for secondary students, they perform better in school when they come to school a little bit later in the day. We used to, back in the day, the secondary kids came first and they'd be at school by 7:30, and all the research said, that's just not good for them. Their brains don't wake up. They're not wired for that type of a schedule. They perform better when they start a little bit later. And so it's been a challenge to find a schedule for the 2-tiered busing system that speaks to research. Make sure the little kids aren't out when it's still dark out waiting for a bus where it might be risky. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider.
Well, and we made our time change based on the research. You know, that's, I mean, we really made an effort to do that.
Try to respect that.
And then it creates another problem, so.
Well, one of the other things too is we have tried to provide as much choice as possible for parents, which has created another situation when we no longer have neighborhood elementary schools. Because we had to close schools for financial reasons, it's created more busing because of that, because we don't have neighborhood schools where kids can walk to school anymore.
Well, we do, but fewer. And there are 3 schools that have just a couple of buses, but every school has buses. And in the past, we've had schools that didn't have any, and we don't have that anymore.
Well, how about our, the programs that we offer? I mean, think about the number of programs that requires transportation.
Some type of a shuttle service.
I mean, we could make a huge list: early college, music, Aspire.
Math.
Specialized
Yes.
math
Math.
classes.
Pardon me, what'd you?
I said specialized math classes, and we
Specialized math.
also have after-school programming to support kids who, with their academically. And then there's the whole sports program too.
Athletics.
Well, and Kelly, I don't want to, Kelly said in the very beginning, like, we wanted to originally, and I think it was a couple of years ago, we made it may have been longer, but we wanted any student that started the school year in one building to stay in that school.
Be able to finish in that building.
So that goes to transfers after the start of school. That's going to increase in our shuttles. And see, these are the types of policies I'm glad that we're talking about, because I was sitting back the other day thinking about all the different things that we do. We transfer kids for one math class. We transfer kids for, so these are all things that if we believe that we need to do that, that's a service that we need to provide, then we need to know that when we are trying to put together a cost later on down the road for our transportation. So, if and you take about our intermediate sports, didn't we eliminate the test and the dentist team, and now don't we bus students over to Hibbert after school to do football? I mean,
We don't bus them after school, but
but things like that that we could. I don't know all of the different things that we do, but that goes to the barriers that we have. If we're going to provide choice, if we're going to provide stability for our transient student population, if we're going to provide class classes that can enrich a child that's ready to be, or classes that the child may need to go to for non-enrichment.
Transport a lot of students to after-school programs, to some of our after-school program partners. There's a lot of that.
Girls and Boys Club and Girls Inc. and
But we also have to, when we're looking at all these, we also have to prioritize those as well, because some of the things could impact our kids academically.
Absolutely.
And we have talked a lot about about transitions. I remember us talking about that so much, that we wanted the least amount of transitions possible for our kids, because it does impact their learning. So we're gonna have to.
And we have created so many outstanding opportunities, you know, so many. We've named some of them, but I mean, the after-school programs, the extracurricular activities and everything else, and providing the transportation for that, I mean, it makes this just the most attractive location, you know, in the entire area. And my thought would be, as we try to prioritize these things, what are we willing to give up that has been so successful over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years to help us to meet the financial needs that are arising out of this, you know, and you know, is there a golden goose that we're willing to give up? You know, do we want to give up that program that serves 50 kids, but they're 50 kids who are greatly in need of those services that program has to offer? Because if we do, then again we do the disservice to them. And so when I think about the barriers, is to prioritize those outstanding programs that we partner with and we offer. Are we still able to keep them all at this point?
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna add to, I mean, the programs are like ESA, STAR. That one building, half of that capacity of that building could treat any student anywhere in the city of Richmond.
Right.
But we've also think about the future a little bit. We talked about the magnet schools. Well, that's even gonna compound it.
Right.
We talked about, you know, we've talked about all of those different, you know, so all of that's gonna come at a cost as well.
Well, and as I'm thinking about, obviously, we are going to have to prioritize. I mean, we have to. And so, as I'm thinking about how we go about prioritizing, so we may have to begin with our basic plan for transportation of our students to and from school. That may be the first part of prioritizing. And then, you know, kind of look at the cost of that, and then go, you know, then do we go to the next part where we offer special programs and that kind of thing? Or do we say, oh, but those are the most important, you know, those should come first? So, you know, we're just going to have to figure out, because I think that getting our kids to and from school has to probably be our first chore, and find out financially what that is, and then tackle the rest of it. I don't know.
And unless I'm wrong, direct this at you, that all these opportunities are offered at no charge to the families.
That is correct.
Whereas if you look,
Some
you know,
field trips are actually collected for,
yeah,
but
some
other
field
than
trips.
that, that's not true.
Right, but overall, our transportation that we provide during the school day and for our program partners that we have after school and even before school are offered at no cost to the families, which is phenomenal. And I hope the public is very much aware of the fact that we have done these things without, lack of a better expression, taxing them with
Well, no,
dollars.
they are taxed.
Well, what I mean is.
It is taxpayers' money that
What
we're
I
talking
mean
about.
is, if you're going to do this, you must pay for
Additional
this.
charge.
But when you think about the school corporations around us, you know, within 50 or 60 miles here, who now are charging families, you know, for transportation costs, you know, just the basic transportation costs to and from school, and even one school corporation that is getting rid of it completely. So,
But we're also in a competitive market. And we have kids who cannot afford to pay for transportation. With our free and reduced numbers, we could have other corporations say, well, hey, we'll pick you up for free. So, you know, these are all things that you have to.
They already are.
Yeah, that you
Yeah.
have to think about.
and we have, you know, again, when that is going on, we have still offered our services at no additional cost and expense to families, and I think that's to be commended.
Well, I think that actually is a barrier in our community with the poverty rate that we have in our community. We have to recognize that transportation is not something that a lot of families can afford to spend extra money on. And,
Well,
and those are sometimes the kids who don't have as many other opportunities because their families are in that situation. So they're not going to get that other enrichment activity some other way.
To most of our families, it is not a luxury. I mean, it is a true need.
Is, in further discussion, could we see a financial breakdown of these different programs? And I know there's tons of them. How many kids are involved, how much it costs?
Absolutely. You know, as I've sat here and I've taken notes, and I'm thinking, we are laying the groundwork for our next school board meeting, which is a work session. And so we have basically, don't you think, Dr. Poindexter, that we have laid some of the groundwork for that continuing discussion and
Yes.
board members?
And I think so, that some of the information you need can be actually gained fairly quickly. Because we've been looking at data and whatever, so some of that, we can put some cost to it pretty quickly.
So-
Estimates anyway.
I think just the enormity of the different programs that we offer
Right.
would be important.
With route, like the daily route, essentially what you would have to do is come up with an average cost per mile or something to that effect, probably. Because I can tell you, every route, every day looks different, depending on who rides. So to say that route costs you that much and that route costs you that, it's a little bit harder to do.
Sure.
Programs are not as hard to do because you do make Wings, for example. When Wings goes, we make 6 stops at 6 elementaries and we transport them over to Hibbard. So that's a little easier to do. On the daily route, you would have to sort of say if everyone or on an average basis.
I was going to say, if we could get an average, then I
And
think that would be.
the numbers of kids served by the different programs, I'd like to see that as well.
We have
Okay.
well over 3,500 students registered to use transportation, so.
But
it's
we
a
just thought
large
that,
percentage.
you know, before we delve into that financial picture, that we do need to have some criteria of what we believe to be what needs to be offered to our parents and students. So, you know, I think that we have generated a lot of points to take us further.
I might just say that, if I'm reading it correctly, our board policy has guidelines in it for distance that we have actually superseded with practices, unless there's a change that isn't reflected here. Elementary students, in our policy says 0.4 miles. Intermediate says 0.7, and high school says 1.5 miles.
I mean, I think that's gonna be the conversation that we're gonna have to
And-
have soon.
At some point in time, we determined to take that down a notch in practice But that's currently what and then of course, students with IEPs, special transportation IEPs, that's a different, it's a different conversation.
Okay, anything else to do with our transportation that anyone wants to?
Well, I would just encourage the public and everybody that's watching any comments or thoughts, send them to the board president through her email or on the webpage. She's at the top of the list, so she gets all the emails first. But I mean, because this is when we get to the point that we're talking about what we want to provide for our students as far as safety to get into school, when we start talking about walking distances, parents, we need to have this conversation out in the public so the parents can understand and weigh in, because, I understand that we have, and what Hope prompted this, we all know, we have a $300,000 shortfall in covering our transportation bill. But you know what? We may collectively as a board say, you know what? We want to have a deficit because we want to provide this, 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 and this. So then that means something else has to give somewhere else.
Right,
So,
there's a trade-off.
I think the wants, the needs, it's important. We have to start there. So.
Well, I think we can look forward to lots more discussion on this, and more than likely, a work session at our next meeting, and we will continue this conversation. And our finance committee will be meeting, are we on the third?
Yeah, it's moved to the third Tuesday.
The third Tuesday, so.
I'm just wondering, would we want to table this until the board's had a chance to dive further as far as this, or will we be ready?
Table what?
The finance committee, until there's time for the board to decide how they'd like to proceed on this?
There's some other, because we're going to start, we're going to start the monthly financial review is one of the things that we're going to start. So it won't be a 2-hour meeting, I don't think.
Well, and I think the finance committee is going to work to maybe narrow some things so that we can present it to the board and give it to the board, so that the board isn't, our time is pretty limited. So we were going to delve into some of the finances and so forth and bring it to the board. Everything comes to the board, obviously. So,
But regarding transportation, since we haven't come to a
Right.
definitive list of wants and needs, I think that's what her question was.
Right.
right, but we won't, we're going to have a work session.
I got you. But not
the
before
1st
the
of
next month.
February.
Okay.
Our meeting isn't until the third
Gotcha.
Tuesday of February.
Very
So,
good.
we will have, obviously, lots of information before we get to the finance committee. So, hopefully we'll have lots of information that will guide us and direct us.
Some of the things, there may be more estimates than exacts, depending on, what we're trying to respond to, obviously.
And we just have to,
Deal with best
Deal with that.
estimates.
Well, and I think the finance committee can help by understanding some of these cost drivers, So.
correct. Okay, anything else? Great discussion, I think. Okay, we are ready to move on
Yes, we are at.
to our public commentary. Anyone wishing to speak?
We have Dan Norris.
Dan, come on down.
Dun, 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 dun.
Not 4 pages.
Oh,
I'm Dan
wow.
Norris, I'm the guidance counselor at Test, and I just want to thank the board and administrators for keeping an open mind in making the decision about trimesters, semesters. I appreciate Ray Wolpe also being supportive and the REA keeping an open mind. For the past 36 years, I've been a middle level teacher and counselor, and the middle, research does show, is a pretty critical time. When, as you've stated tonight, it's kind of the high school's need to move to semesters. And, you know, there's always a tail that wags the dog. Back in 1984, the move to middle school, it was the high school's need to move 9th grade up to the high school to earn credits through a 4-year program. And so we did a lot of research and we did our due diligence and we created a middle school program, 6 through 8. And within 4 years, we took it apart because of finances. It cost too much to have a really well organized middle school, and it was the money that made the change. So we had a 6 through 8 junior high then for about the next 15 years, something like that. But we were site-based. Everybody got to make their own decisions, everybody had meetings, everybody tried to decide what was best for them. Then we had the 6th grade out during the Dr. Amick years, and at that time, with 6th grade back in the elementaries, we closed schools. That was a financial need. So again, the middle got changed in its total concept. And so it was a 7-8, 7 in, 8 out. Everybody hated it, thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. But you all who were here as board members voted to spend that $10 million to renovate Test into a great place for 440 kids, 7th and 8th grade. Lab rooms, classrooms, etc., that now have 250 more people in them. During that time, Test Intermediate did their due diligence and started trimesters. We did it 2 years before anybody else. Suddenly everybody's doing it. Whether that was a great idea or not, it was determined that everybody would go to trimesters. At the same time, we also at Test started the Super Tuesday. We would get out a little bit earlier. We did it for 1 year. Everybody said, whoa, we can't have one building doing anything different. And so suddenly everybody's doing it. And whether it was a great idea or not, everybody was doing it and still does it today. We did it because we wanted to research and read and have collegiate discussions about Marzano and Davidson and writing and reading and how best to serve our kids. Then we did the hokey pokey. We took the 6th grade out, but then we put the 5th and 6th grade back in. But we were told by Dr. Borf, you are now tasked, even though those of us in the middle didn't think that was a good situation and a good setup, to create your own school and your own culture. And that's what we've tried to do. Now, if it helps you frame some of this, we're all going to be on 6 weeks. So there are 6 6-week grade cards. We can take our 3 6 weeks and turn them into a semester and send those algebra and Spanish credits to the high school. But if you look at how a curriculum guide's set up, there's an A and a B to every course. So if Test is teaching all 7th grade history, the 1st and 2nd trimester, but in a longer period, and Dennis is teaching it in a shorter period, but for a longer time, they're all going to end up with the same amount by the time they get to the high school. So we feel like that's the benefit to us, but because we stick with 6-week and 12-week divisions, we can offer the advanced classes for the high ability kids, which is something we've been tasked with. We can continue to support the early college program, which is also in the building. We just think it's a good thing. So I thank you for all of that. Since we're all going to be on the same grading schedule, the high school credits will move over. The kids that take an algebra, kids that take Spanish. And as Mrs. Wolpe mentioned, since we are going to be doing the scheduling process now, they will tell us what they want us to do. But we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to put the kids into their academic English, math, science, social studies, and then it'll just affect some of the electives as to what they have room for and how they want to do it. So I think the transition is going to be a lot easier than what people think. Yesterday, we just happened to have a medical professional come through with her family. They had heard about Hibbard and talked about it, but by what we were able to show them and what we're able to offer, they're liking our school. So I appreciate the time that you put into it. I know there's still questions, but like you say, Dennis has been on their schedule for a couple years. We've been on our schedule for a couple years, and I don't think anybody's really paid that much attention. We're still churning it out. We got the B for the grade, So thanks very much. We appreciate all your time and effort. Come visit us.
Well, thank you, Dan, for all your time and effort. Now, I have to ask you, Dan, did you have 2 speeches written, just in case?
No, but my retirement letter's already written.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we are now ready for board reports and old business. And so, Dixie, do you want to, did you have something you want to talk
Yes.
about? Okay.
Yes, we have, we're reviving the Success Committee that we had last year. And last year, the Success Committee did some things that we feel were positive, like changing the board time, moving it up to help accommodate students who have to go home on a weeknight to do homework, hopefully, and for our parents and also for our teachers and administrators so that they don't have to stay out to all hours sometimes when we have some of our long board meetings. We also moved agenda items up to better accommodate students and administrators and staff again so that they could leave earlier when their part was finished and wouldn't have to sit through sometimes some boring things until their turn. So a number of things were accomplished. Also, we themed our board meetings so that we could showcase our students, our teachers, our programs in a better light and tell our positive stories. So we want to continue that work this year. We kind of got bogged down a little bit with the surprise of our superintendent leaving. So we're going to pick that up, and our first meeting, it is a board committee meeting. It will be advertised and posted, but it will be Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
February 3rd,
February 3rd.
Tuesday.
Okay. Y'all come. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about our superintendent search and how we're progressing.
Linda,
And yes, Suzanne?
I was just going to update you on the marketing
Oh,
group.
okay, great.
Since
Go
we
ahead.
were
We'll-
reporting out just a little
Sure.
bit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That our particular group has been focusing at least a little bit on the high school. Since as we look at our enrollment, that's the place where we really feel like we need to focus. And we've had some meetings with Principal Wolpe and amongst our group. And we're looking at especially captivating, what should I say, taking advantage of the audiences that we have at Richmond High School from time to time, and as well as some of the other schools. We commented that we do get some really nice, diverse audiences in our buildings, and we don't often take advantage of telling the story while they're here. So we're working on that. And Tiernan Center is especially a good place for that activity. It's been interesting because we talk about barriers earlier, and with marketing, as you know, that's one of the things I've pushed for a few years. The barrier in marketing always becomes dollars, because that's not something public schools are used to doing, and there isn't money to do that, allowable, and from the taxpayer pool. And so we've been really trying very hard not to let that hamper our thinking, put the plan together, and then work on finding those dollars in other creative ways. So I just thought I'd let you guys know that it's a really good thinking group, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. But we're collecting really great stories. The We Are campaign has not been overdone. We have not really had the opportunity to really take that as far as it will go, highlighting where our graduates go and where one could go with all the opportunities that are offered at Richmond Community Schools. So we're looking forward to taking that and running with it.
Great.
I think is there not a statute that actually limits how much money we can spend?
There is. It's a
like
dollar per student.
dollar a
student.
student
Dollar
or
per
something like
student,
that,
yeah.
so.
So,
That's why,
It's a dollar per ADM.
per
So-
ADM, so,
so,
that means
but-
we're allowed to spend about $5,000 a year.
which goes nowhere. So
Right.
we have, it's been difficult because the school personnel are very conscientious about that, knowing there's not dollars. So I just want us to put together the plan, put the dollars to it, and then try to find the dollars. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, 'cause
Well, and I only brought that up because in the past, when there were some billboards and stuff that went up, I had some people in the committee say, well, if you're tight on money, then why are you spending the money on stuff like this? Well, that was donations.
correct.
So I just want the public to understand, we are very much aware of the limit by statute on how much money we can spend advertising.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
we need more donations, public.
and you can be as creative as possible. $5,000 does not go
No,
Right.
wouldn't
far.
take it far.
Right.
And so, we really do, but we need to be, the same person who says that says, well, what's the matter? Are you afraid of a little competition?
Right.
And so, we need to, put ourselves in that realm. We have the story to tell. We are very competitive, and now we just have to figure out a way to say that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, and thanks for your work, and we'll look forward to what is yet to come. Anything else before we move on to the superintendent search?
I had
Dixie?
one other thing. Susie and I, along with some administrative people, attended the Martin Luther King breakfast last Monday. And it was, the presenters there were from United Way and talked about the Alice population. Talked a lot about poverty in our community, what it looks like, and the barriers they face. And we happen to be in a county that has a high degree of poverty right now. So it was very eye-opening, and if you have a chance to read the report, which I know Mr. Millis sent to all the board members, you need to read that carefully because it certainly affects our school system.
Thank you, and thank you for attending the Martin Luther King breakfast. I also think that we probably have some celebrations that we didn't do at the beginning of the meeting. I know that we have Business Professionals of America that did very well at their regional meet, I believe, and they're slated to go to the state. And so congratulations to Denise Selms and all of the students that placed first, second, and third. We had a spelling bee winner at Charles,
Elizabeth Starr.
and I believe the winner was from Elizabeth
ESA.
Starr Academy.
Yes.
And the runner-up was from Charles, and there were like 23 contestants. 24. Dixie and I, we judged, and I've judged 2 or 3 years, and honestly, this was the first year that we had to go back and stop and listen to the tape and, listen carefully to how the word was spelled, and I think we did that, 3 times? So, anyway, it was a fun event, and there was something else that I was going to... Chamber dinner. We had, oh my goodness.
It was Richmond night.
Kinder Beisner was the Chamber Educator of the Year. Wow. And Kendra teaches kindergarten at Charles and just an excellent teacher. So we say congratulations and kudos to Kendra.
And Dr. Bork was
Received an
recognized
award.
also at the chamber dinner for all of his work.
And I, Kelly, you attended, Aaron attended, Suzanne attended, and Dr. Poindexter attended, so thank
was
you.
Mark.
And Mr. Millis? Okay.
Our partner, the YMCA, was recognized as the nonprofit of the year, and then who was the partner in education? Why am I forgetting that? Oh, no. I can't remember. We'll have to remember it
I read
next
it in
time.
the
'cause
paper,
it's
but I
escaping
can't
my mind.
right now.
But yeah, well, lots of folks that we partner with were involved in that awards.
Was
including the
West End,
Chamber
was
of
it West
Commerce.
End Bank? No?
First Bank Richmond. It was
First Bank,
First
because
Bank.
of School is Cool,
Oh, okay, First Bank Richmond. Sorry. Well,
and
you know.
Wetzel, I think maybe,
So, pardon me, Mark.
The YMCA.
nonprofit of the year.
So, lots of good things. So, now we're going to talk about the superintendent search. I would like we have had community forums, and would someone be willing to kind of give us a general overview of our community forums? I believe we have one more left tomorrow at 3:45 for our staff, but anyone who would like to come, whether you are RCS staff, it doesn't really make any difference. We invite anyone from our community to come to this last forum that we are hosting. It's at 3:45 in McGuire Hall. So, does someone want to, Kelly, do you want to give us an overview of the forums?
Well, we've had a total of 5 plus. You and Jeff, I believe, met with the teachers.
We did.
And
With REA.
with REA,
Yes.
Richmond Education Association. They have not been well attended. However, I asked Aaron, because he was at the one yesterday morning, how many did you say there were
There
there?
were 12 altogether.
Yeah, 12. So we are having some people come out. I hope we have quite a few come tomorrow afternoon. We use the format of what are the positives about Richmond Community Schools and the negatives, and what would you ask the superintendent if you had a question to ask he or she when you were interviewing them. And it's generated some really good conversation. Even though the groups have been small, it might have generated better conversation with a small group because people aren't afraid to speak.
Right.
So, and I also want to encourage people to fill out the survey on our website. I believe that's up until, we were gonna, just the end of January, weren't we?
Yes, well, that was, my next question was, do we have a stop date planned? Is next week, let's say next Friday, going to be the stop week, or is this week going to be the stop?
I'd suggest that we keep it up one more week, so that a week from Friday will be the last date. We had initially thought the end of January, because it does require a lot of, since it's open-ended responses, it's not just a or B or C, pick a letter. So we do need, it takes a little longer to collate that information.
So February the 6th will be the last day for the survey to be on the website, so.
We had said we were collecting input through January, so that's, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
January's gone already. That's
So,
hard to believe.
I know, it really is. So let's talk about then, if February the 6th is our stop date for the survey, so what happens next?
Well, we'll use the results of the forums and the survey to begin to formulate questions that we would like to ask candidates in the interview process.
Okay, so before we get to the interview questions, so what's going to happen with the surveys and what are we going to specifically, can we be a little bit more specific as
We
to
haven't even discussed.
how we're going to compile that information so that it makes the information usable for us?
We haven't really discussed
Well,
that yet, except to pull out the common threads.
We've been pulling out the common threads and,
Okay.
and trying to note how many times that thread piece was repeated. And and then we felt that information would be then used to formulate our questions in the interview process.
Okay. So do you anticipate that the month of February will be used to collate and to and we can then report on
I would
the
h-
common threads.
I would hope that with a little elbow grease, we could be ready to report on what the common threads are. If we're closing it on February 6th, then maybe by our second board meeting in February, we could have a report in this type of conversation, sharing that information.
Okay, great.
They're pretty obvious. I mean, even just a few comments.
thing.
Yeah, there were
Very
lots of
similar.
commonalities,
Very common.
although I will have to say that meeting with Kelly and her officers, Jeff and I met with them this Monday, and they looked at it from the REA perspective, and honestly, there are some. They came up with some really good thoughts and some different thoughts than what was generated through our other forums. So that was really good information.
Did I miss student conversations?
We haven't had those yet.
Okay.
We're having those in February.
Okay.
And you'll let us know those dates. Can we post those on the web when we get those dates? So the student forums will be sometime in February, and those are being scheduled.
We're planning one at each intermediate building and at the high school.
And we will use that information, obviously, as we're compiling. So, we added today, Suzanne added the superintendent responsibilities on our portal so that when
Technically,
candidates.
Pam Lips added that.
Well,
I sent it to her, but she
right.
added it.
You mean
Yeah,
the
Pam has been-
job description
Right.
that we
It's-
have that is already in place?
That is already a
Yes.
policy. It's a policy, but it's entitled Superintendent Responsibilities. And so that is now listed on our portal. And I just wanted to report that Concetta, I touched base with her today before the board meeting so I could report any, if we had applications coming in and so forth. And I just wanted to share that Concetta Ramonde is the university search team leader that is working with us through the superintendent search process. And she says that the applications for vacancies come in the last week or two of the posting. So she said that usually candidates, what they do is they spend time learning more about the vacancy, the schools, the board. That's kind of scary. And the community
Mind your P's and Q's.
before they apply. And then they spend a lot of time writing and revising their responses to the questions that are posed. And then it's not unusual, and Betty confirmed this, Dr. Poindexter confirmed this, that it's usually the final 2 weeks of the postings that they begin to get
That's
the
accurate. That's
the
absolutely true.
applications.
15 years of data to tell you that.
So anyway, she said the good news is that there have been lots of inquiries. And something else, I expressed to her that we were kind of disappointed in the lack of participation in our forums. And she said that she wasn't surprised. She said when communities have had a high level of satisfaction, they are not as likely to get engaged. They just assume that those who are responsible for the district will continue to do a great job. And she said this is actually a compliment from the community to all those who make the system work. So, anyway, I just wanted to pass that on. Of course, we wish that more people were available to give us input, but that's kind of comforting to hear from her perspective also. Aaron?
I've had a mixture of people from all over the community over the last few weeks who have stated the same thing. They may not have attended any of the forums because they said, we trust you every 4 years at the ballot to make the decision, and you've made good decisions, and this is why. From these individuals, they said, I have some ideas, but basically it's, you're doing a fine job, and we know that you know what our community needs, and so that was the thing that I heard from a lot of people.
Well, that's good news to hear that. So, anybody else have anything as far as the superintendent search is concerned? Have I left anything?
No,
out?
I really want to thank the REA. It was a really a nice conversation. I appreciated their approach. It was, it wasn't more about us or them. It was more about uniting and standing together and marketing as an organization, as an educational organization. It was refreshing. It was a refreshing conversation. So.
And the people who have come out in all the forums have been very thoughtful.
Absolutely.
And have been very strong participants. So while maybe we wish the quantity were more, the quality's been very good.
Certainly has. Okay, we are ready to preview.
Upcoming meeting?
Yeah.
Well, we do have some things that we know are coming up, and I'm sure there'll be more. Summer school, of course, is right on the horizon. We'll probably have an RFP for the third grade academy. Mr. Millis and I had a fairly lengthy meeting the other day with Mr. Ahouse, and I've learned a lot about the third grade academy, so that was very helpful. We all should have an update on the Garrison property by that time. Karen's been looking at that. Don't know about the Highland, but we still know that Reed Hospital is expressing interest there, so at least those things are on the agenda, and I'm sure we'll have more.
Okay.
Can I just interject a couple?
Yes.
We'll be bringing a calendar
Oh, yes,
for your
of course.
approval.
It's big.
It will be a combination of semester, trimester. We meet with the calendar committee tomorrow.
Yeah.
And also, at discussion, last week, teachers brought up that they'd like to use that teacher workday as one of the snow makeup days, as believe we did that last year. And then having teachers come in on a Saturday for their workday.
I believe, couldn't they choose whether they came in on a Saturday or used the end of school,
That's
day
what
at the
they-
end of school?
Right. So they brought it up, and we need to go back to discussion next week and get it finalized. So we'll
Yes.
be bringing that recommendation also
Great.
When did you say the calendar committee's meeting?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Have two big meetings tomorrow.
Okay.
Calendar committee and new teachers.
Okay.
Okay, I want to go quickly back to the superintendent search because I had my papers all laying here and I left one out. One of the things that I wanted to share was where we have posted the applicant and the brochure. And of course, it's posted on our website where our applicants can go. It has been posted with the Indiana School Boards Association. It has been posted with Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents, with Indiana Association of School Principals, and with the Indiana Department of Education. So those are all of the places that we have. Is that correct, Suzanne? So, anyway, I just wanted to throw that in so that.
All
so
the
that-
state universities, the 4 state universities have also posted it.
Okay, so Indiana University, Purdue University, Ball State, and Indiana State. Okay, so we're out there. Okay, press conference. Here comes Louise. I did it right for a change.
I want to first say that my first appointment this morning was with the young man from Elizabeth Star Academy who won the
how fun.
citywide spelling bee, and I talked with him and his teacher and his parents, and he speaks Spanish at home. And I asked him if he grew up in this country, but so he's fluent in English, but he does speak Spanish at home. His parents came here from Mexico. And I asked him if it was confusing to study English words, and he said sometimes he got mixed up and spoke English to his parents.
Well, and his teacher is Melissa Jordan. He was a third grader or fourth grader?
Third grader.
Third grader, and
Oh,
so.
no, wait a minute, he's from fourth grade, I'm sorry.
Fourth grade. Melissa Jordan is his teacher, so she was like just jubilant, let me tell you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Melissa, you know what I mean when I say jubilant.
I am wondering if I can ask if Mr. Braymeyer was the subject of the investigation that was reported to us last week.
We have a statement prepared for you.
Mr. Braymeyer was placed on administrative leave January 20th through 23rd. And there was a resignation that followed on January 23rd.
January 20th?
Through 23rd was a paid administrative leave.
So the resignation was?
Effective Friday, the 23rd.
Okay. And will this be reported to any law enforcement authorities, or does it stop here?
No, it will not be.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we are ready for our bell ringer.
Yes. Well, I know that Dr. Boroff was always around looking for the good things, and as I watched board meetings, I saw him and heard his comments, the videos of the board meetings. I happened to be in Vail the other day, and as I've tried to be in all of the buildings, so far I have one yet to go, and as Test and actually Hibbert as well, but where we have students. But I was at Vail, and the principal and I were walking around the building, and just great things were going, and we were all excited. And I reached this one room, and I was saying to the principal, look, look, look. There's students up here at the front, and I couldn't really see the teacher. I could see just a little bit, but I really couldn't see the teacher. I'm saying, this is fantastic. Look, they're all attentive. Look what's going on. And anyway, she pointed down at the name on the door, Melissa Boroff.
We would expect that.
That bell.